So, Brandon, welcome to Getting There with Amy Claire.
Hello, what's the crack?
What's the crack? Yeah, well, traveling Europe at this stage, doing podcast recordings, which is really, really fun.
Nice.
How are you?
I'm okay.
Yeah?
It's been long
Yeah?
since we saw each other. We know each other a while now, don't we?
I met you, but I think I was 17 or 18 at a
Yeah.
leaving cert thing in Rochestown Hotel, wasn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
yeah, 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 yeah.
Girls said
That
you
was
were.
a long time ago. That was a long time, and then you ended up going to England.
I ended up going to England
I was like,
thereafter, but you actually, this would be a good time to introduce yourself. Do you want to actually just give the listeners a bit of a background? So,
okay, so my name is Brandon Ari, and I am a 400-meter Irish sprinter. And yeah, so I've been running now for I want to say about close to 10 years actually.
he's forgotten it so long.
Yeah, it's close to 10 years. But I was born in Cameroon.
Okay.
So for anyone that doesn't know where that is, it's like West Africa. Um, just kind of beneath Nigeria. Just above the equator. So we're actually you know what's weird? We're actually like the only African country to have like all like four seasons. So we have like jungles by Congo, and we have like deserts by like Niger and Chad, and we have snow in like the mountains, and we have the beach obviously. To
That sounds
like
ideal.
yeah, so it was great. It is great, but it was also Christopher Columbus has some crack over there. He was like,
Mm.
oh, that's yeah.
Oh, lads. Do you go back often?
Um, I went back 2 years ago. But yeah, it's just so different. Like I don't know, like living in Africa and living in Europe is just so different in the sense that like your way of thinking is completely different. You know, like being an African, it's like all about communities, all about families, all about friends, like, and it's kind of like if you live in like an estate, like you know everything about your next door neighbor. You know what I mean? You can walk into your next door neighbor's house and have dinner. You know what I mean? It's so close in that sense. But obviously there's a lot of things that, that kind of overshines that, and it's just obviously there's a lot of corruption, there's a lot of poverty, but yeah, like I just find it so fascinating because Africa, like it's so beautiful in terms of like just the culture. It's so rich in like the culture, natural resource, and just the people. Like it's like even I remember when I went over, my parents got married again, so they renewed their vows. So it's like 25 years. You get
Cute.
like you get like a silver, then 50 is like a gold, and then they renewed that. So yeah, it was pretty cool. I just like seeing all the different type of culture. I was just like, oh my god, this is because like I think there's over 700 different tribes or something. So imagine the amount of languages. So like you could be from Southampton and could not understand a word someone from London is saying, just
Yeah.
because like it's just mad. But
I quite admire though how like many languages people can speak. I
yeah,
remember a guy came over, I think it was from Kenya back when I was in school. I think I was must have been again 16, 17.
yeah,
And it was actually really, I think, important for us to hear because he was like, "Oh, I only speak seven languages," but he was so sincere about that.
only
But he really meant that, you know. He was
yeah.
like, "I generally only speak seven. There's like a lot of people speak up to 25 and all this." So I
It's
thought,
mad. It's
what?
crazy.
And we were
Yeah,
there complaining about one or two, and I was like,
yeah.
"Oh, lads,
Like my mom can speak five. So
that's
it's
mad."
mad because there's obviously a dialect. There's obviously like your whatever your tribe speaks, and then there's English, and then there's French. So French is the uh it's a spoken language in Cameroon, but Cameroon is also a bilingual country. So like before like 1960, a part of Cameroon had like a choice whether to join Cameroon, which it is now, or to join Nigeria, and the English speaking side picked Cameroon. So yeah, Cameroon is like people don't know that. People think Cameroon is a French speaking country, but yeah. So my mother's francophone, but my dad's anglophone. So
Oh wow.
I'm like an English speaking Cameroonian. So yeah, it's pretty cool. But yeah, I think languages as well is so fascinating though. It's just like being able to understand people in just something completely different that's been established and made up and just stuff added onto over time. It's
Yeah,
just like
and it constantly
yeah,
changes
yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
It's
It's
just
class.
like it's mad, but yeah. So I was born in Cameroon, and I moved here when I was like 8 years old.
Well,
Yeah,
that actually brings us on to our first event, so that's
yeah,
great.
yeah.
Um, yeah, you said, yeah, 8 years old, moving to Ireland. You had to then adapt to Irish culture. So there was a transition there. I know you mentioned that, in Cameroon, that kind of sense of community and stuff is big. In Ireland, I would find it, from my perspective, that community here is really, really big as well. But
Yeah.
how, can you kind of elaborate on the kind of contrast and how big the
Um.
difference was?
Oh, like it's like community is massive here, but in a sense of that, like in a sense of that, like your community, your parish should be a well-known parish. You know what I mean? It should be a
Mm,
good parish. Like to do it for the community, but like in Africa, community, it's also about like understanding people, like like helping people out, and like it's mad because when I went back, just as a little example, like when I went back, like we have avocados grown at the back of a house, random as hell. I know,
lush.
so random, and it's just like I literally buy this for like 2 quid over in Ireland,
Yeah.
and it's literally grown, and my auntie's trying to get rid of it because it destroys. I'm like, oh my god, if I could just smuggle avocados back to Ireland, it'd be great.
Yeah. I bet
But
you they taste insane as
oh
well.
my god, it's just nothing like you taste it, and the size of it as well. It's huge, like
Yeah.
it's massive. But yeah, so like literally, we've grown avocados at the back of a house, and yeah, my neighbor down the road, she had pineapples, and I was just like, yo, I can give you like pineapples. I can give you
Mm.
like this much avocados for some of the pineapples. She was like, grand. And we just made like she gave me pineapples, and I just made a fruit salad, and it's just that's the sense of community. It just kind of it's just so different. Like for instance, like I just like I stayed in my neighbor's house for 2 days without going to my house, and she just
Mm.
cooks and she comes over to ours for Christmas. It is about family, but also you spend Christmas like a community. So
Mm.
after you spend it with your family, you all come. We call it quartier, so it's like an estate. You all come together and you all whatever. And yeah, like there's like a lot of things, but I think as well though, like the reason it's so different in a sense is that like I feel anyway like people don't have as much in Africa, which is a bit sad, but they have a lot of skills and qualities that like like I learned in college here.
Mm.
Like
Oh,
you're meeting,
undoubtedly, I'd say.
yeah, you're meeting 8-year-olds that can sell you anything. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And it's just great. And you meet people that can speak all different type of languages and never went to school, just because they want to get into an industry that they know they'll make money, such as tourism. And it's great. And I think when you go over and you see something like that, you appreciate things a lot more. Like especially when I came over. Back to your question, like when I came over, like it was hard in the sense that that I had to like adapt because like I went from like no having all my friends and family there, having all my friends and family, having everything around me to like just being in Cork and just being in my house just with my family. And the only time I saw my friends was when they called for me. It's just, or when I called for them, like it wasn't. Whereas in this Cameroon, you can just kind of roam around and it's
Mm.
and very much like school, do your homework, brush your teeth, have your dinner, blah blah blah. But it's so like structured. Um, Another thing I found as well is just I don't know, being 8 years old. I remember like just thinking, oh my god, there's so many like white people around the
Mm.
place, because like I never like when you're 8, you don't really like you don't like when you're 8 years old, you don't see color like at all. It's really mad because like I really do believe like it's definitely like your perception of society that makes you see color. Do you know what I
Oh,
mean? Or a
totally.
perception of
Yeah.
like your parents or like that's those are the. But like when I came over, I was just like I don't know, but I remember just having white friends, and it was just like so different. It was so good, and it just we started to like learn about each other's cultures. And I remember going to Cork, and my mother was just being like, listen, like it's a bit different here, but just try your best, make new friends. And just I when I came over, I could only speak French. And so yeah, I had to like start. I remember I started watching like a loads more like like cartoons, English cartoons and stuff like that. And because all in Cameroon, like we had like we had Looney Tunes, we had Tom and Jerry, we had all these, but it were all in French. We had like
Oh, yeah, that's
Zoe
true.
101, but it was all in French, and I was
Zoe
just yeah, it was
101.
just like all in French, and it is and that's so Raven. But like I was like, oh my god, there's an English version, there's a real version of it.
Yeah.
But yeah, so when I came over, it was quite difficult because obviously I left a lot of my friends and my family back in Cameroon. But yeah, like like I think like moving over obviously was the best thing that ever happened to me because like over here now I feel I know I've accomplished so much, but like on and off the track since I came 8 years old. And you know it's great when you look back. It's just like you kind of wonder to it's like, oh my god, I'd love to know what my life would have been if I stayed there. You know what I mean?
Mm,
Like I'd love to,
I know.
because
I actually think of that myself. I know this is
yeah,
slightly different. I was born in West London, and I moved to Ireland when I was
okay,
3 or 4.
yeah,
And people can absolutely argue there's a there's a not a huge difference perhaps in cultures there, but I suppose there is a bit. It
mm,
is different, like London and Cork. So I actually wondered that as well, like what route would I have taken, what pathway. But I'm sure like so many people think of that. What happens if I didn't move house here, or whether it be
yeah,
country or not. It
yeah,
takes you on a totally different track. So
yeah.
can I ask, Brendan, with regards to when you moved over, yeah, what was the hardest thing that you found, and what was the, say, easiest or most enjoyable?
Mm, what was the hardest thing about moving over? Um, just you had to the fact that you had to dress and act a certain way to a standard
Oh, okay.
was really quite difficult. It's just like having to deal with that. It was just like, oh my god, like I really want to just be myself and run around here, but I can't. Whereas in Africa, like that's that's in you from when you're smaller. They're like, have fun, be yourself. Do this, do that.
Mm,
But over here, it's kind of like, okay, now you're in school and it's time for studying, and you know what I mean. And in one sense, it's good because it keeps you disciplined. And in another sense, it's quite hard because when you go from that transition, it's like, oh my god. What I found easiest. Oh, what I found easiest. Ooh, probably. Oh yeah, the weather was quite hard actually. The
the
weather. Oh
weather.
my god.
I'm surprised that hasn't come off
Oh my
yet.
God, yeah, the weather is, you go from like 37 degrees to like 7 degrees. It's like, because I came 2004, December. So it was like freezing. Oh my God, I still remember I had like a massive North Face jacket. And I came over in like shorts but yeah, like it's the weather as well. And the food was quite hard. Just like,
Interesting now that
yeah,
one. So the food, what aspect you said was hard? Because obviously we've got things. There's a lot of food available here, but I
yeah,
can imagine it is quite different.
yeah.
How was that difficult for you then?
Africans don't drink milk. Milk isn't in our diet.
You don't drink
We
milk.
don't no, with milk isn't in our.
The dairy industry in
Yeah,
Ireland
it's
is
just
the total opposite.
it's just like milk isn't even, because I remember like even now it's like I remember I went to a nutritionist um a couple of months back, and I was like, oh my god, like I every time I like eat my breakfast with like milk and stuff, like my stomach is always like, yeah, because your diet, there's no dairy in your diet because your country don't produce it, like, you know
Mm,
what I mean. So your breakfast is like so different to like we're more eggs and plantains and just like really things that like um so yeah, I just stopped drinking milk. And yeah, but I remember when I came over I was like, oh my god, and everything, the fact that everything was pre-made as well, I was just like, oh my god, this is mad. Like
mm.
you could, whereas in Africa, like if you want the bread in the morning, you'll go to the boulangerie in the morning and buy the bread, and if
That's
it's
class. I
gone
love all that.
and it's just all fresh. And it's because we like inherit that, the French and Belgian culture as well. We kind of have that. So like you'd go with like your coins and get baguettes in the morning, and if you're in a large family, maybe it's your turn to go. It's just, I think as well, that was what it's like, oh my god, I can just get like my pre-made sandwich, yeah, my pre-made salad, and I was just like, but obviously now it's like, I was like, oh my god, but yeah, it's different, it's something I had to get used to. um African food is very rich in everything. um yeah, so it's like rich in everything pretty much. Like there's
Sounds
like,
lush, to be honest.
yeah, there's like we like we make everything from scratch. And it's just like, say like there's your veg or whatever, it's just like either rich in like either like iron or fats, or like, or if you're eating something that's more carby like plantains or yams, or that's very rich in carbs as well. But yeah,
Welcome to Nutrition Tips with
yeah,
Brendan.
it's just like, yeah, it's just, it was so, yeah, that was different, but at the same time though, I love coming over to Ireland, and just being like, oh my God, so hold on a second, I can get like I can get like a roll made for me, and it's just there, or a sandwich, and it's just there, it's packeted. You know what I mean? It
Yeah.
was great. It was so I was just like, oh my God.
You've actually just reminded me, Brendan. Um, one of the first things I always do, because for the listeners, we're in Dublin at the moment, so
Yeah.
not in London. And when I come to Ireland, one of the things I look forward to most is the hot chicken roll in Central.
Yes.
They don't have this in the
What?
UK, and they're massively lacking it.
Oh my
I
God.
need to bring it in myself.
They need to
It's
get
so
onto that.
simple yet so effective. I just absolutely love it. But
Yeah.
there's a bit of digression there. But anyway, yeah, I'm gonna go get that today.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. For the English people listening, we need to explain to them what it is, because like they don't really understand. It's so
it's
simple.
well, it's kind of what it says in the tin, but I suppose it's more about the toppings. You go in and there's the normal deli counter. I'm sure there'll be some places in the
Yeah.
UK that
Or
do this, but
yeah.
I haven't found it. You go into the deli counter and essentially picture like an insane salad bar. They have absolutely every topping you can think of,
Yeah.
and you pick out your roll or baguette, whatever you want,
Yeah.
and you hand it in, and you can pick what type of like spicy chicken, plain chicken,
Yeah.
whichever,
Yeah. They
and
usually
you
go.
put it in,
Yeah.
and it because it's all fresh and stuff,
Yeah.
and they wrap it up, and I usually get maximum amount of toppings, classic
Yeah.
Amy, and yeah, and you just absolutely enjoy it, and it's so simple, and I make them myself at home. Do you know, it's easy enough to
Yeah.
buy.
Yeah.
But sometimes you just go in, you're starving, you just
Yeah.
want to go into the
Yeah.
local
Yeah.
petrol station and get
Yeah.
it. So yeah, that's something that I think. Oh, there's many times now whilst living in the UK that I've gone. I'd love nothing more now than a hot chicken roll.
Yeah. The best is when you're hungover.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, the best, like when you're like after like going to the pub or like whatever, and it's just like, okay, we have to go in the next morning and get like your hot chicken roll with like can of Coke. It's just like, oh my God,
kind of cool.
it's so
This is
Irish.
sounding so stereotypically
Yeah,
Irish.
it's so Irish.
Yeah. No, I love that now. So
Yeah.
that it's funny that we're onto that because but yeah, I could see there was definitely a contrast though between kind of the African culture there. Obviously, people could think yeah that's not something that they're unaware of, but I suppose it's interesting here from your perspective. You know
Mm.
how you view things, and um, I absolutely can't wait to go to Africa. I haven't decided what country I'm going to go to first, but my parents actually went to Kenya for the wedding anniversary,
Mm.
and they're showing me all the photos, and they went to the schools and stuff like that, and I actually just from there I thought right, I want to I want to go out there, and I'd love to even to build a school
Mm.
like an orphanage or something.
Mm.
That's something I've had since probably like the age of 11. That's kind of been my idea.
Mm.
Because I think when I saw the photos of when mum and dad were out there, and they just seem so grateful. They don't have half as much to say what
Yeah,
people have, but they just always smiles on their face. And I
so
thought that's
happy.
saying something. And so, the education and things like this, obviously this does depend on the country, and in each country I've seen that there's certain areas way more developed. I think the media sometimes portrays African countries and communities as being very rural or very developing, but actually, if you go to, for example, Nigeria, like Lagos, it's absolutely
Oh
booming.
my God,
Like
yeah.
but they don't show that in the
No, no, no,
media.
no,
That
no,
I
no,
think that's
no.
an issue.
Yeah, it's mad because like even like I've been to Lagos before, but it's just mad. Like you're seeing cars that you've never seen in Europe ever, and you're
Yeah,
seeing houses that you've never seen in Europe, and you're thinking to yourself like, oh my God, the media is lying to you. But
there's
like
money there.
there is a lot of money, but the
Yeah,
thing is, obviously, it is very like you know, there's a massive contrast between rich and
yeah.
poor. You know what
It's
I mean?
corrupt though, isn't it?
It
That's
is,
the issue.
yeah, it is like yeah, I suppose to anywhere, you know what I mean? Like
Mm.
every country is corrupt in their own sense, you know what I mean? Like there is a small bit of corruption. It's just that like in Africa it's just corruption is just a bit more than anywhere else.
Yeah,
As I suppose any developing country such as like, India or whatever like that,
yeah.
there is or like any South American country, there is corruption there, any developing country. But yeah, like to go back to your point, like it is so rich in like in terms of like just money and wealth and everything, and it's just yeah, like I always get this brainstorm like, oh my God, if we were, it's mad because like Nigeria and Cameroon are the biggest consumers of Guinness in the world.
I remember when I was working in sales, I
I
used to
was
call
like,
Nigeria. They used to
I
bring up.
was like, what the hell? Like you wouldn't think that, but it's so funny because it's mad because They make it in Nigeria, they export it, and then they import it back. Same with oil. I'm just like, oh my god, if African countries could like come up with this idea where like the Arabs, where like evenly distribute the wealth,
Yeah.
it would be unreal. But at the same time, that's you're literally knocking on communism doors there. You
Mm.
know what I mean? But I just like it is like there's so much wealth, like oil, everything in Africa. It's just but yeah.
It's I think the line between poverty and the rich is just the gap there is a
Yeah,
lot
it's
bigger.
mad. Yeah,
That's
it's
what it
mad.
seems to be. Well, from my
Yeah,
perspective,
yeah,
obviously, that's what I'm seeing. But as I say again, the media do tend to portray Africa as being this, very much a developing country, which of
mm,
course in some areas is definitely still the case. I've seen that as well. But I suppose it is important for people to be aware that, like in every continent, you're going to have poor and rich countries, and within those countries, you're going to have richer areas, etc. I've seen some mansions out,
yeah,
when some of my friends are saying, "Oh yeah, this guy's absolutely rich," and you just don't really hear of that. But yeah, no, I love listening to all this kind of thing. I think it's kind
yeah,
of educating myself and hopefully the
yeah,
listeners out there as well. But
yeah.
thank you for sharing that.
Okay.
Um, so now we'll take it back to you're now in Ireland, and your second event was that you started getting into athletics.
Yeah.
What got you into athletics?
I used to play football. Well, for anyone in England listening, there's two type of football over here. There's Gaelic football, and there's football, which is soccer.
Yeah, that's
Um,
like blasphemy in my If I
yeah,
say that, my dad is like, not allowed.
we did not speak of that. Football is football. Um, but yeah, like I played football all the way up until I was maybe 16, I think. And one of the days I was just like, okay, I need to. I was my friend's dad who was just dropping to football training, but he had athletics training beforehand. I was like, you know what, I might actually try this out.
He had a witch?
Athletics training
Oh, athletics
beforehand.
training. Oh, yeah.
So I was like, you know what, I'll try this out. And then I went to it, hated it because they got me doing cross country straight away. I was
Oh,
like, oh
lush.
my God. They were like, you're nice and strong. You'll be able for country. I was like, please, no. I was like, no, I can't do this. But yeah, they got me doing cross country. And if anyone out there has done cross country, it is the most disheartening thing you'll ever do, especially as a child, because like you start off without even being able to see the finish line, which is horrible.
Mm.
And it's freezing cold and the mud is like up to your chest and you just like you're looking out for your parents halfway and you can't see them and you're like, oh, I just want to get to the finish line, but the finish line just is so much further away. But yeah, it's just yeah. So I did that for a while and then hated it. And then I did 800, so long distance, middle distance, sorry. And then I won my monsters, which is like your province. Um, and then I went to the nationals and I came like fifth. I was like, okay, I'm not gonna quit this sport until I get a medal. And yeah, so I got third then the following year and I just kept it on and yeah,
How old were you when you started? I know you said this through
ooh,
cross country, but how? Because
I
you
think I
moved
was
when you're 8. So I'm just trying to get a kind of
yeah,
time frame.
I was like for second year of college, second year of school. So 15, no,
14,
14,
yeah.
14. Yeah.
14. Yeah, so second year
Yeah.
in just so because the UK list is I have to do it vice versa.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah, second
So
year, yeah.
second year in Ireland is
Did
when
it,
you're 14. So I think that is would that be year 9? I think it's the case. So yeah, my sister's in year 8 and she's 13, so I'm just gonna add that on
oh,
maybe.
yeah.
But I know she's kind of one of the oldest, so it could be year 10, but
Yeah.
I think it's year 9.
Yeah.
There's gonna be people shouting going,
Yeah,
"No, no,
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 it's
no,
this,
yeah.
it's this."
How dare you?
How do you not know the
Yeah.
system?
Um, yeah. So yeah, this first year, second year, third year, fourth year, fifth year. But in third year, you do your junior cert, which is equivalent to
GCSE, but they actually do
GCSEs.
that at 16. I believe it's a slightly
Oh,
different
okay.
system. But on the next podcast, we'll go
Yeah.
into the education system.
Yeah,
I'm just
yeah.
kidding. But if you just go back there, Brandon, it's okay. So athletics, it then you said that it changed your life for the better. So how so? Without kind of stating the obvious, how for you personally, where were you before it and where were you after it?
I think it opened up it changed my life in the sense that it opened up so many different doors to me. Do you know what I mean? Like it
Yeah,
opened up so many doors. Like it got me into university. I got a scholarship into university,
class.
like a full scholarship, and like I'm just so happy because I remember I was playing football and my dad sat me down. He's just like, listen, like, there's like 27 of you in that team, and literally one of you probably make the Premier League, and that's if even one of you make the Premier. And it was my dad is such a like straight and like he says it as it is, and which I think a lot of African parents are. They're all about education, but at the same time they want to see you thrive in sport, but they're just like, listen, this is what it is. And he was like, you can use athletics to your benefit, and you can keep running, keep training, keep doing what you're doing, but you can also use this to open doors for you. So when I started doing athletics, I started realizing that it not only made me faster on the track, it also made me faster in other sports as well. So I kept up the football. But then I started winning schools. I started winning like whatever, like different medals, and it got me then into university and I into Dublin, and I did economics and law on my undergraduate, which was great because university is quite expensive here. I don't know how it is
Well,
in
we've
yeah.
got a slightly different system in
Yeah,
the UK
yeah,
again.
yeah,
There,
yeah,
it's more
yeah.
expensive, but it's a loan
Yeah,
system. So yeah.
yeah. But yeah, so it was grand, like it was handy. And when I got into university, being on a scholarship as well, you had so much funding, you had everything, you had a nutritionist, the gym, like you had strength conditioning, like it was just good, you know what I mean? And outside that extent, it also opened up so many more doors for me because, I was able to get internships from it. I was able to get work experience from it. I was able to get jobs because of it. Like it just opened. I was able to use it to my benefit, and it was great. Um. So yeah, like I think if no matter what it is, if you're good at something, I think you should definitely try and leverage that. Try and if you feel like you're 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 good at singing or good at acting or good at
Mm.
try and you know
Progress with it.
broaden progress with it, like broaden everything, you know what I mean? And it was great just like going into an interview and just be like, listen, do you know what, I actually run, I'm a sprinter, because they're like, oh my god, we don't have sprinters, then you end up talking about that, and someone can always relate to what your career aspects are, you know what I mean? Or if you go in as I actually sing, it's like, oh, my daughter actually sings as well, or I
Mm.
act, oh, my cousin was an actor, so you can
Yeah, yeah.
always. So yeah, it like I ended up like getting like internship in like Bank of New York, and like it was just great. And then since then I've gotten like I got sponsorships, and I got like adverts and stuff like that. So it was pretty cool.
That must have been quite exciting for you as well, though. But was it a because that's quite a big transition, isn't it? And you're
Yeah,
running, you're winning medals, which is huge. But then suddenly the next step is people are actually willing to sponsor you, and they're
yeah.
um. Was that kind of overwhelming, or was it kind of smooth sailing?
It was kind of overwhelming. It was like it was nice, but at the same time, it's kind of like, oh, you have to be able to like just go at your own pace. You know what I mean? Like
Mm.
sometimes it's great, but like it's kind of like people see you as sometimes like it is great that some like especially athletics opens doors for
Yeah,
you, but
yeah,
like sometimes people see that as like, oh, this is great for my business, just get the athlete, and
yeah,
sometimes
yeah.
you need to know your worth, whether it is you're in the sport industry or in the music industry or in anything, you really need to know your worth, and
As a human being,
as a
rather than
human
just the
being, and
athlete.
just like although it opens up so many doors for you, you need to know that okay, this business isn't just using me for photos to just put me out there. You
Mm.
know what I mean? They actually believe in my goal. They actually believe in what I want to be like in the future. And
Yeah,
so it's just having, the understanding and being like, okay, I trust this business or I don't. And
that's quite fundamental, actually.
yeah, because at the end of the day, it's all about your brand and it's all about you. You know what I mean? And, you know, businesses will do anything to get more money. And I've been in situations where, you know, like business have put me out there as the athlete, and then they've made money off it, and then after that they're like, okay, next, and
Mm.
it's you learn that the hard way sometimes. But I think as well, for some people, whether again you're in the music industry or the sports industry or whatever, the film industry, like you learn, and it makes you understand, and it makes you like a lot more resilient for the future. Whereas in sometimes you meet people that have gotten it so well the whole way up, and then when they get to the top and something bad happens, they're like, oh my god, I don't know how to deal with this mental breakdown.
Mm.
Whereas in if you've gotten there's disappointments along the way, and you get to the next step, you kind of know, okay, this is, you kind of know that, okay, if I made a business again and they want to do an advert with me, I'm like, okay, this is what I think I'm worth. So this is what I have on the table, and you can go with that. Whereas in when you're starting off, it's like, oh, what can you give me? And at
Yeah.
the time, it's great. You're like, oh my god, this is great.
But
Blah blah
that's in
blah.
nearly every
Yeah,
career, I'd say. It's
it's
almost a
like,
sacrifice you have
yeah,
to make to.
it's like, oh my god, this is great, and it's more than what you started off with. But then when you start like going up, you're like, oh my god, and you think back, it's like, oh my god, I actually went out in the freezing cold and did this for them, or like did some campaign for them and shook hands and this and that.
Mm.
And I just went back home. I got nothing for it. Whereas now you're like, oh my god, I would love if like maybe your business is like, gave my family a discount, or like,
Oh, yeah, little
help my,
tips like that,
so
yeah.
use it to your advantage, you know what I mean? Or use it like, and make connections as well. Like it's huge. Connections are huge. Yeah.
I can imagine that, yeah, your networking opportunities have become kind of more enhanced, shall we say,
Yeah. Yeah. It's quite,
in the last kind of few years.
yeah.
In this kind of like escalator, so I can imagine, you started off in this cross country and then suddenly you're getting sponsorship and things like that. Um, so we've kind of, with regards to say the difficulties of it, have you ever reached a point where you thought, you know what, I kind of want to leave this, I want to quit this isn't for me? Or have you always been like,
Um,
no?
yeah, like I've gone through a couple of times. Like, like too much of anything is bad for you. Like,
Mm,
I don't know if you've, like, too much of anything is bad for you. And sometimes it's great to just get a detox from it all. Like, it's, athletics is great. Like, I wouldn't be here without it. You know what I mean? I wouldn't be at the position I am in life without it. But at the same time, though, as an athlete, you have to go through a lot. And sacrifice is huge. Like, having to sacrifice a lot, having to sacrifice your friends, your family,
mm,
um, job opportunities for the future. You know what I mean? And a lot of times when you sacrifice all those things and you get injured, mentally it's quite draining. And you're left isolated. You know what I mean? You're like, oh my god, like I haven't gone out for 6 months. I haven't drank for 3 months. I
mm,
haven't seen my family for 7 weeks.
mm.
Like, I literally am losing best friends because of this, and now my hamstring is gone. I have to, you know what I mean? And it's just
Mm.
like that for anyone, it's very draining. So yeah, like I have gone through moments like that, and I think as well though, um, again, I think once you go through that, again, it makes you so much more, like it makes you stronger as well. Um, but yeah, there are times where, you know, like now I feel like I want something else in life. I'm like, oh my God, like athletics is great, and I'm still gonna keep doing it. It's always part of my life, but it's like I want something, like I want a new challenge in life. You know what I mean? Like,
Okay, yeah.
I'm like, what's next? You know what I mean? And
I'm a bit like that, I
yeah,
suppose.
it's I think as well, I don't know whether it's just my age, and it's just like, okay, I need to,
The wrinkles
but
are kicking in now. I'm joking. I'm
yeah,
joking. I'm only messing.
yeah, it's like, oh my
Get that,
God.
get that anti-aging cream
Yeah,
on. That's fine.
yeah,
No, that's to say, like, from my perspective, like hearing all this is, it's informative, but it's educational. Do you know what
yeah,
I mean? And even though, say, if anyone has a sporting background, they might relate to this in terms of, like you said, mentioned injuries and stuff like that. But even if people aren't in other industries and in other jobs, like it's the same thing where I'm sure there's going to be people out there going, I've had to sacrifice similar things. It mightn't
mm,
be to do with athletics, but so that's why I think it's like interesting for me to kind of hear that.
yeah,
So yeah, thank you for that.
yeah,
So now you've got to the point where you're immersed in the athletics, and the third event, you actually, because you mentioned before you went to university, you had gone in for the scholarship, um, in Dublin, but then you finished your master's degree.
yeah. Woohoo!
So
Done.
that's another milestone,
Yeah.
and that was your third event in terms of what kind of built you to where you are now. Why is that? Why was doing that master so fundamental for you?
It was, I don't know, it was, I think, I think coming from Cameroon, it was like if you're from an African background, or whether it's an Asian background, or
Mm,
like education is huge in your family. And I never really valued that until I went to university. I was like, oh my God, education is like the key to everything. It's like if you're educated, you can literally achieve anything. I was just like, I got a couple of job offers when I finished my undergraduate, and I was like, I need to be a lot more qualified because, athletics can only take me so far
Mm.
in life. And if I go out on a night out, like it has happened to me before where, I've, hurt myself, but it hasn't been serious. But if I go on a night out or and I trip on a step and I crack my ankle in
Mm.
half, like that's me gone, and if athletics was all I knew and all I had, that's me. Like I'm going back to, you know, zero.
Mm.
Whereas in I need something to fall back on. And yeah, I loved finance and I just loved how the world kind of works and just how just how people understand money and
Yeah.
the economics of it. And I just loved it. Like because I have an undergraduate in economics as well, but I just loved that and just like again, don't want to be touching any politics, but I think Brexit is so interesting. Just like being able,
Yeah.
because we're also part of it as well. It's like, oh my God, like in 20, 30 years' time, we're going to look back, depending on the result in January, and we're going to look back and be like, oh, geez, remember that time GB just like left the EU? They were like, see
Mm.
ya. You know what I mean? Like, it's just,
I think, from my perspective, so being in the UK, it's something like
yeah, how
Brexit,
do
right?
people feel about that?
Well, it's total mix. That's the
Yeah.
whole issue. But I think the way I see it, right, is I have an issue with the topic of Brexit coming up in the sense that I feel that it's so spoken about all the time. I feel like I can't have a conversation about anything else sometimes. So that's like when I have the issue. It's kind of it can be overwhelming. But when I actually look at it, I think it's very, very important when it comes to whether it be Brexit, whether it comes to other elections or other area of politics, that people look at the two sides because the media does not portray the two sides.
Yeah.
Um, but people are so unaware of that.
Yeah.
Remember that people are very either left side or right side, and media is too. So I always try to look at both sides, whether I feel like I'm totally against something or
Mm.
for something. But
Mm.
as you mentioned there, you were right. It is interesting. I mean,
Mm.
sometimes it can wreck my head because it comes up so much. I'm like, I can't actually talk about it. But when you actually do, I suppose, look into the details of it, it is interesting.
Yeah.
Because it's how different people are operating. There's different levels of corruption involved, everything. So then you've all these factors, and when you do look
Sorry.
at it from an educational side, I'm sure actually yeah, it is very interesting. So you've now you've done your masters, and you mentioned that when you finished that, it kind of made you think, okay, so for the next step, and you've highlighted on that a little bit. So you also mentioned that from doing your masters, it almost brought to light the future, but way down the line. It made you think about like what you really want to do and where you want to be in a few years. So
Yeah.
you said that you want to say keep on the athletics, you want to do that, but you want to do something else, and you've got your masters now. Do you have any other idea kind of where you want to go with that?
Um, I'd like to get into, I don't know, I'd like to get into like investment in like banking or something like that.
Whoa.
Yeah, I'd love to, but not the cruel one, not the, you
The
know,
sleepless nights.
yeah, not the sleepless nights one. Just like I'd like to get into investments that like help developing countries.
That's really
So
good.
like
I like that.
that you can actually see the difference in equality, the difference in diversity, the difference in just the world. I'd love to get into something like that. Um, so like maybe whether it's like linking up, you know, South Asian countries with, rich investment bank in London or in America or, you know, you know, people in investments in Kenya
Mm.
looking like just having that. I'd love to something that I can actually see the difference in. But those type of roles are so like you're either going to be the first to do it or like the 50th person to try and do it. You know what I mean?
Mm.
And I think like I would love to get in something that I can actually look back and be like, oh, it changed this person's life, or it's changed this group of people's life, or it changed this country's life. Um, but to then obviously like with any jobs, you need to work your way up. So yeah, like I'm done college now. I'm gonna my goal for the next year is just to train. And I would love to qualify for the Olympics. Like that would be like my ultimate
That'd be
goal,
insane.
you know. And I think like it's,
I'll be there with the flag.
yeah, woohoo! It's
Go
like
on,
Tokyo,
Brandon.
Tokyo.
I'd be like, don't forget to give me a shout out. It's like,
Yeah,
I'm just kidding. I'm not
yeah.
kidding.
I'll be on the TV and be like, listen to Amy's podcast. But yeah, like that was my goal, and I think as well though the reason I decided to just take a year out and just train, is because like I don't want to maybe like 4 or 5 years down the line to look back and be like, oh my god, like what if I actually put in a year? Would I have qualified for it? You know, I want to give myself a chance and see where it brings me. And after that, then I think I'll just start working on my career. You know what I mean? I'll just start like, just start working on myself and start, working and catch up on things that I haven't been able to do growing up.
Yeah.
You know, I have never been on a J1. I've never gone on a summer holidays with friends.
Mm,
I've never, all these things, like, I've never, like, in January and February, I'm training like 6 days a week. And it's just, I train now 6 days a week. And,
mm,
it's like when we finish here today after training the evening, like, it's just like my life is, I'm always training, you know what I mean? And I think it's supposed down the line when I finish it's just like catch up on life and just like, if your friend's like, oh, do you want to go for 1 or 2 pints? You're like, actually, yeah,
mm.
yeah, because like
Little things in life, I
the little
suppose.
things, like, but I'm still gonna, keep running and keep doing,
It's
but
like for his coaches listening, don't worry, he's
yeah,
still
yeah,
gonna
yeah,
actually
yeah, oh no,
focus.
yeah, please, coach, please, please, please. Um, but yeah, yeah, the next year is just full focus, and yeah, so that's pretty much me, yeah,
um, that's insane. I love that.
yeah.
I also think that uh, when you said, just take that time out, it's for me. I'm doing something similar, I suppose, but I think the point that I've definitely taken out of that, which is really nice, is if someone's say ever contemplating doing something, you will either look back and go, well, at least I know, say, I tried, but it didn't work. Whereas if you don't try it, you'll look back and go, well, I actually will never know. And then people bring that up, but I think that's a classic example there. So I think that's admirable that you're really going to focus on that, and I wish you the best of luck with it, and
Thanks so
hope
much.
you qualify. So kind of the final question I have for you is going kind of analyzing these events. Who would you say your biggest influence has been to getting you to where you are now?
Ooh,
I know it's a deep question. I That's why I love
damn.
asking it.
That's just,
Damn,
I was like, oh my
jeez.
god. Who, um, damn, who do I look up to the most? I'm trying to think of who is like really,
It can be multiple people if need be.
yeah,
Some people have it's evidently just one that stands out. Other people it's a few, so it depends on the person.
yeah, like it's such a, because I have such a broad, like, like it's so in terms of like sport,
Mm.
um there is a 400-meter hurdler from Rwanda from the 70s called John Akabua.
Okay.
Um and I really looked up to him in the sports sense that his life was similar to mine in a way because he had he was a tremendous man. Like he like
He's
no 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 no
similar.
no no no. Oh no no,
Sorry,
but like
he's a similar.
no no
We're
no,
both
but
German.
like
No,
no,
that's
no,
fine.
yeah, that wasn't.
I just sorry. I will always take the opportunities to have the crack when I hear things like that.
Yeah, I am John Akabua. Ah,
I am a tremendous
I
man.
am a tremendous man. No, but like I just like the reason why I look up to him is because he was like so tremendous. Because simply because like he started off training in Africa, like literally with on grass with literally flip flops
Wow.
and started racing and he just built his way and he won the Olympics. He went like 50 races unbeaten.
Madness.
Um and then moved to Germany, got sponsored by Puma, and his life's just like he was just he was just one of these people that touched the life of so many people, wasn't recognized for it. And I just really looked up to him. I was like, oh my God, like obviously he's passed away now, but yeah, but like just his life and his journey, he was so determined. And the fact that he was trying to also make changes in his, because Rwanda went through a massive genocide,
Mm.
but he was also trying to change his country within as well. Um, so I think like in the sports sense, that's kind of like who I would really kind of like look up to. And then who else would I kind of I like hmm in terms of like in terms of like music, I think I'm so weird because I really like Etta James and Nina Simone. I don't know, do you
Oh
know?
yeah, yeah, I
Yeah,
do.
yeah, I love Etta James and Nina Simone. It's so weird and so random
I
because
do actually. For those
yeah,
people going, no, she doesn't. I do.
yeah. Who never you listen to rap?
I
But
listen
yeah,
to a lot of music, so
yeah, I like Etta James and Nina Simone, and they're like and J Cole. Etta James, Nina Simone, and J Cole. Three people I just like. Etta James because she had like a horrible life. Like she was like addicted to drugs, blah blah blah. But she was also great at what she did, and she was also just, she gave out so much to the world through like music and stuff like that. And then Nina Simone, I love her because like, although she was American, she tried like getting that bit of African that was in her.
mm.
Getting she lived in Africa for a while and just like her music was just touched so many different people, and it's like people that know who she is really love her. You know what I
Mm.
mean? And then J Cole because like I don't know, he just like he just speaks sense. I'm like, oh my god, it's like I listen to a J Cole song. I'm like, how do you know my life? I'm like, how dare you? Um, but yeah, like there's so many different people out there, and it's just like I don't know, like, but I think as well though, like whenever you're growing up, it's like it's great to have a role model and look up to them, but there's always a flaw in people. Like someone could stand in front of me, but like Donald Trump is my whatever, it's my role model, and people are like, no, what the hell, you're mad. And
Mm.
other people are like, oh my god, Obama is my role model, but you could be like, no, oh my god, no. So,
Mm.
but I think it's great, especially at the age you're at, like 23, 24, 25. It's great to get a bit of what you like in those people and try and bring that upon yourself. You know what I mean?
Oh, I
Like
like
whether
that. Yeah.
whether it's musically, whether it's through sports, and whether it's through expressing yourself. So that's why I pick those four people, like completely
Mm.
in different backgrounds. Um
No, I like that.
yeah, because yeah, so yeah.
That's. I'm going to take that on board in the sense that even if, say, you don't agree with someone, there'll be maybe something
Yeah.
at train everywhere that you can find that
100%.
you might. So that's a new one. I like that now. Um, just to, I suppose, finish off there now, Brandon. For people listening that perhaps might relate to something that, whether it be sport, whether it be moving to Ireland from Africa, whichever they see or they feel related to, what advice would you give them that from what you've learned and what your experience is? I know that's like a broad question, but
Oh, what advice would I give them? What advice would I give them?
let's go into the sporting perhaps. If someone's like
Um,
maybe stuck or they're contemplating giving it up or they're contemplating maybe going into it, what kind of advice
yeah,
would you give there?
I'd probably give what seems hard and difficult now won't be in the future. Like pain is so temporary. I know it's like the stage you're at, just keep going. Whether it's an extra year, just give yourself. What I always do myself is I give myself timelines.
Oh,
It's
okay.
it's good because like it's like in a year's time, where do I want to see myself? You know what I mean? And it's like I'm gonna work my ass off for that year,
Mm.
and then when the year comes, I'm gonna reevaluate again instead of like thinking whether it's that 6 months. You know what I mean? So give yourself, and if it's sport you're struggling with, just keep training. I know sometimes as well, sport can be mentally draining, but just keep believing in what you do, and yeah, like when you start like when you start believing in what you do, and when you start loving what you do, whether it's music, whether it's sport, whether it's you know in film, acting, whatever it is, once you start believing in what you do and start having love for it and really investing time and effort into it, and people would then start recognizing you
Mm.
for that. You know what I mean? So now at the time, it's like, okay, this person is singer. There's just like, geez, that person really loves singing. And then like you're gonna go through that as like that person really loves running, and then it's gonna sometime, whether it's sooner or later, it's gonna switch and be like, wow, he was a great singer, or he was a great runner,
Mm.
or he or she was a great actor. So until it's just keep doing your thing, and but people will always recognize you for what you do best. So that's like, so yeah, my main advice is just keep doing you and just be yourself and just, yeah.
Oh, I like
So,
that.
yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that.
No problem.
So we're just like finishing up now. Thanks for all your comments and being open about your experiences. And I'm now going to evaluate and see how many times the word like was used in this
Oh,
podcast.
yeah. Yeah. I forgot about that.
Yeah, in Ireland we say
We
like
like
a
a
lot.
lot.
Every second word I'd say. So
Yeah.
that made me chuckle. But yeah, thanks again. I hope you enjoyed
Yeah,
this
definitely. This is
experience.
great. Oh my God.
And yeah, I'm sure we'll do a 10-year reunion and catch up and see where everything is. So
Woohoo.
thanks
Yeah.
again, Brandon.
Yeah.